This is the Magic Experience. Your hostess, sexual alchemist Michelle Torrance. This is a delicious conversation on sexual alchemy, body reconnection, and conscious communication. We'll get witchy, sexy, and magical, connecting with each other on a deep, intimate basis, learning, healing, and rising into the human experience we deserve, our magic experience. So grab some cannabis, sit by the pool, and let's chat. Hello, and welcome back to the show. Today's episode is all about body transmutation and how our physical body expresses the frequency of our core alignment, where we're at with our alignment, where we may be blocking specific energies, where we're holding on to some things. The magic is extremely powerful today. I'm lighting my sage right now and the flames are like super crazy and there's not like a breeze at all. So we're just gonna light some sage and we're gonna talk about how our body expresses our frequency. Now, listen, before I get into this, let's talk about a disclaimer because yes, I'm fully aware. I am not a medical doctor. I don't ever claim to be a medical doctor. So physical, medical things not wrong, but altering the physical expression of our body, there are things out there that are happening. I'm not discounting those. What this episode is about and what this show particularly is about the energetic expression, our frequencies. This whole show is all about sexual alchemy, right? It's a sexual alchemy, the magic experience. We're talking about sexual alchemy. We're talking about reprogramming. We're talking about deconstructing to reconstruct, right? Because we are deconstructing the realities that we have been conditioned to believe is our truth. And we are reconstructing the realities of the expression of the lives that we want to experience, right? Again, just a reminder, we are not humans having a spiritual experience. We are energetic beings expressing ourselves through the physical expression as a human. So our biggest, most important manifestation, creation is ourselves. So this show, this whole my life, what I love talking about and what I fucking talk about all the time is all about energies and all about how we are able to channel our energies. We're able to utilize everything that's within our frequency, within our grasp. We have all the tools that we need. So I am talking about the physical body's expression, right? Of the frequency that we're in. I'm not talking about if there's anything going wrong with your glands, if, all of these things, hypothyroids, whatever the case may be, whether it's you're on antibiotics or medication that is causing a side effect of these things, birth control, which does that for sure. Discounting those things, not taking those into consideration of this particular thing. I understand that those are there, and this show isn't about that. So 3 minutes later and rambling on a disclaimer that I'm not a doctor, let's head into the fucking show. So grab some fucking cannabis, grab a drink, grab whatever. I'm gonna hit the hitter. I got my coffee here, I got my sage, I got my crystals, I got my oils, I got my mic, I got y'all. So let's dive into this. First of all, if you're new to my world and my experience, welcome. If this is your first episode, welcome. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're listening to it. If you do have littles around and sensitive to language, then I would encourage putting in earbuds or headphones or whatever, listening to it when the littles are not around. In this show, the whole energy is all about sitting around, connecting, and being real and honest. And so I don't bullshit. I'll speak whatever channels through what feels aligned and what the collective is calling me to speak on. And I get pulled into directions to do that. If you are new to listening to me too, I start going and I start channeling and I'll start talking. And then if I happen to like think during that time, I'll lose track of where I'm at. And because I stopped the flow by thinking instead of allowing the flow to just flow. So this happens with me. I am a human living with what society would call ADD. For me, it's high energy, and just learning how to focus and channel the energy that comes through is how we're able to live our lives without medication, should that be something that you choose to want to go that route. There's no shaming or judging anybody who is on medication to help with whatever it is that they feel they need that help with. So you're supported and loved no matter what. But I come from addiction. I've lived addiction from the age of 5, starting with food, and then of course working my way up to everything else. You know, what do you want? Coke, you know, whatever, all the fucking drugs. So ultimately though, that addiction is based in codependency, and that codependency is a frequency, and that frequency runs through the collective. And so when those of us who are quote unquote waking up, right? I don't like the term woke. I just don't like it. Just like I don't like the term woo. But anywho, I digress. You know, that codependency is running through the collective, and those of us that are choosing to wake up, or when the opportunity comes to arise, and we choose to step into the frequency of awakening and becoming aware, then we start to become aware of the addiction to the codependency frequency that runs through. And really, ultimately, that is the base addiction that runs through and drives all of the other bypassing tools and tactics that we use, right? Anything can be a bypass. So starting with bypassing, let's start with that. You know, addiction is one thing that is obviously the easiest thing to see a bypassing with. Sometimes you can't tell that someone's bypassing, especially if especially if someone is going through, like if they're working out at the gym a lot, or eating a lot of healthy foods. I mean, you can bypass with kale. You can bypass with the gym. Anything that you use as a vice can be a bypass. And for me, I could always tell when I was, I can tell now. Before, I didn't recognize it because food would always be my go-to if I wasn't, doing drugs. So I know now that when I start to have an increase in cookie intake, that there's something that I'm bypassing, that I don't want to look at energetically, that I don't want to heal, that there's some sort of trauma that's trying to heal itself and transmute its way through the frequencies, because I continue to rise, right? The higher not higher, well, I suppose higher, I don't know. I feel like there's other words that I'm trying to connect with this, but I feel like, we're on a spiral of life, right? Every time that we go through there, that's why when we're healing things, it's not a matter of like, oh, we healed this and it's one layer. No, it's multiple layers. It's depth, it's width. There's so much to us, and it's so much more than we can even fathomly think about in the conscious awareness that we have now. That's how deep and impactful and intense and magical we are, right? So there you go. I start thinking again. Anyways, this is a great time to hit the hitter and take a sip of coffee. And let's ask you a question while we do this. Just a quick question. Do you recognize when you start bypassing something? Can you consciously be like, oh shit, this is a pattern that I do when I am trying to avoid something? And you may not be consciously choosing to avoid it. This could be a subconscious thing. This could be your ego trying to avoid it, right? There's some pain coming up. There's some trauma happening. There's some, and not even just the pain or the trauma. There could be excitement. There could be joy, success happening. And we will bypass by moving into upper limits, right? Like we'll stop ourselves because it's like, if we feel too good, right? Someone's going to knock the stool out from underneath us, right? That's when our upper limits come through. The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks is a great book if you want to learn about upper limits. So, where do you find yourself bypassing? And if you haven't really recognized that, maybe this is an opportunity for you to take a step to become aware. Ask your guides to help you become aware, show you opportunities. Every single thing that we look at, every single experience is a sacred experience. Every single thing that is happening in our human life experience is magical. It's all intertwined together. So as we continue to rise up and go into higher frequency fields, and I think I use the word rise because the higher or the more aligned, maybe more internal, more aligned to the core, the faster the frequency is, right? It's like as it's getting to, because alignment is like there, right? It's like straight, like right? And so as we get into that faster frequency, we're raising into our frequency fields. And what is lower frequency, slower frequency experiences or people or foods or choices or patterns or habits that we've done, they will start to become fully aware in our experience. We'll have many opportunities to either choose to bypass or choose to become aware and redirect that energy to healing, and then transmuting that pain and trauma into empowerment and love and self awareness and rising, right? And when we do that, right, when we let go and we release all of these frequencies that no longer support us as we rise into and step into the embodiment that we're here to do, right? We came here to live a human experience, and that human experience, it's stepping into the embodiment. It's embodying the experience. That's what we're here to do. And so it's recognizing that as you start embodying the life experience that you have been desiring to live and the choices that you have made to get you to that experience, you start to rise in frequency. You start to see more opportunities, and the opportunities that come are to release any final stagnant, any residual energy that could be holding you down, which could ultimately start that pattern and behaviors of upper limits or bypassing, right? So, how does our body actually do this? Why our body is the manifestation, like I said in the beginning, right? I feel like I just keep repeating myself. So we're just going to roll with it. But like our body is the manifestation. We are the magical creation that we came to be, right? We are not only the wave, but we are the ocean, right? We are the universe playing with itself, playing hide and seek with itself. We are the creation. And so what we can do, we have ultimate choice and freedom by doing that. Our freedom is free will. We get to choose. We get to choose how we want to live. We also get to choose how we respond. We get to choose how we show up. We get to choose how we embody the experience that we are currently living, right? We'll talk about karma. We'll talk about multiple lives here on this show. Myself, that's what I've been going through over this last, month and a half or so, is another layer of karmic healing. Past lives, I was a perpetrator of the witch wound. I was manipulative. I was angry. I was the toxic aspect of the feminine. I was utilizing all of that. And so that life, and this life now, healing karmic debt from that specific experience, I can feel that connection. Of course, I've done work with my guides, I've done my readings, I've connected, done all these things. And this is a lot of healing that both me and Sean have been going through. So, as I started to awaken and heal and align and embody the frequency, when I first started the show, there's an episode, the birth of the rising goddess, right? Because that was beginning, of course, that was the expansion, the step. I stepped into my embodiment. And when I realized what I was going to be doing, as a sex coach, as a sex switch, as stepping into my magic, as who I am, as a high priestess, as a daughter, as a Magdalene, as all of these wonderful things that I am here experiencing and continuously in this cycle of evolution and awareness and conscious awakening. As I continue to do this, my body expresses it, right? So, we talk about cookie apocalypse, right? That was when I recognized and realized that I was actually going to be a sex coach, that my life was revolving around sex, which my entire childhood and being, growing up into that point, sex was sin. It was the devil. It was the terrible thing, right? It was all of these conditions and indoctrinations and traumatic lies that were coming through. And so it's taken, after that first year and a half, like I stepped into that, and I was at a plateau with my weight for so long. Now I've been up and down and up and down. I mean, when I did speed and coke for so long, of course I remember my skinniest, I was doing speed, and I say skinniest because that's what was the thing. We're conditioned, especially growing up as young girls. We see it now. We see it starting to change. We see all of this wonderful empowerment of our bodies, of as they are, who they are, what they are, and all the multiple different ways about it. And even myself, I continue to fall in love with the way that my body is each and every day as it shifts and changes. And of course, because I love my cycle, I have a relationship, a healthy, conscious relationship with my cycle. I lean into every single day and utilize the hormonal fluctuations, the frequencies that are there, the seasons, connecting it with the moon, understanding where it's going on. And we talk about this on the show a lot too, especially prior to the magic experience, but during Rising Goddess Radio. And, as we start to fall in love with all of these different aspects, we start to shed. Right. So I've had multiple different ups and downs. The highest, I've been up over 240, which for me was very unhealthy. It wasn't a confident weight for me. It was my over 62% body fat. It's just a very unhealthy way. And a lot of that weight was used as protection from pain, protection from success, protection from being too sexy, all of these things. And so as I stepped into my embodiment of the realization, right, of who the fuck I am, when I accepted, that's the word, right? When I accepted who the fuck I was, then the grieving process happened. And this has happened multiple times. When we have our cycle, we die and rebirth every single month. So I've gone through this process in multiple different layers. And this most recent evolution and shift and change and rising and transformation and transmutation was a very deep, wounded one. I don't really talk much about my relationship with my parents. I have a couple of episodes where I share about my relationship with my mother and my father, and how, my relationship with my mom was never very aligned. It was very strained a lot. It was, it always felt like competition. I always felt like I had to be perfect. It was just a very unhealthy mother wound situation. So what's the mother wound, real quick, if you're new to that term? The mother wound is the pain of being a woman in a patriarchal society, right? So we've been living in the patriarchy, right? Down with the patriarchy. Everybody wants to be down with the patriarchy, but y'all are afraid to go down with the patriarchy within yourself. Look internally first, right? Deconstruct the patriarchal conditioning toxicity that's within you. So then that way your physical expression embodies that frequency, right? Of that healed energy. And then of course, that's how we change the world, one person at a time. If you want to bring down the patriarchy out external, you got to bring it down internal, as within, so without, as above, so below, right? So last year, an experience happened where I finally had this final stand up to my mother, really. And I say a stand up because there's been multiple times where I've just sat down and laid down and allowed her word to be what dictates my life. And I know I'm not the only one in the world who's this. I feel like right now I'm feeling all of these women out there who have this experience with their mother. And it's taken me many, many years. And multiple different layers and acceptances and deaths and rebirths and risings and awakenings and all of these things, right? We don't just wake up once, right? We are in a constant evolutional spiral of awakening every single motherfucking day. Okay. So, so about a year ago, a little less than a year ago, I told my mother, that was it. Look, if this is how we are going to have a relationship, if this is the only way, then we're just not going to have a relationship. I don't accept that. This is my boundaries. This is my standards of my existence and my life. This is who I am. This is what I do. Take it or leave it, right? And so I haven't spoken with her I gotten a birthday card, a standard typical card, and then I'd say about about a month and a half ago, I got an email, and I had been feeling over the last few months this intense energy, this this pull. It's like that taffy pull feeling. It's like you feel like you're kind of in a taffy puller machine, which means that you're on that verge of awakening. You're moving into the next frequency field. You're really starting to heal. You're starting to get through, right? You're getting through all of these things. You're really rising up. You're experiencing your life. You're starting to have a good time. You're going into these things, right? But there's just this nagging energy in this frequency. It's like this slight hook, right? That's in there, and it's a deep, 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 deep hook. Right. And over the years, I've really gone through a lot of healing within my relationship with my mother in my own world, in my own terms, acceptance, realizing and recognizing that she is her own independent woman in this world, and she's choosing to live her life, experience her life, do her faith, and have all of these things in her experience. And I cannot condemn her or judge her just as much as nobody else can condemn or judge me or anybody else, right? So these are things that I've really come to try and have compassion, see her for as a separated experience, right? And this is what I teach a lot with couples, right? If you're having miscommunication issues with your partner, sometimes during that time when we're having those miscommunication issues, we're not seeing our partner for them as a human being, as their own individual, independent person. We're seeing them as part of us. And so we can't really see clearly because we're intertwined with it. So when we take a step to the side, don't take a step back. You're still looking at the same perspective. Take a step to the side, turn and look. You can start to see things from a different perspective. So when you look at that person as their own independent from you, as their own human going through feelings and emotions, hormonal fluctuations, body image issues, all of these things that you are going through, having the compassion without the judgment, right? Then you can start to see that person and start to have a different perspective on how you perceive the relationship, on how you can control and how you express yourself, how you embody, how you show up, right? And how you can heal and forgive and rise, right? And so I've been doing that for many, many, many years. And this last summer, when I did that, that was this final thing. And so when I got this email about a month and a half ago, I had already started to bypass. I was continuously snacking on just continuously snacking. And when I'm doing that, I'm obviously choosing to put my energy into something that is bypassing something, but I wasn't consciously fully aware of how deep this pain and trauma was that I was going through, that was coming up. And so I was aware of it. I was present and I was observant. If you're not sure what's going on, the best advice I could give you is to just become an observer. Observe your human behavior and see what happens. This is how you're taking a step to the side and looking. You're observing the pattern. You're not trying to change it. You're not trying to figure it out. Oh my God. You're not trying to figure it out. You're just observing what's going on. And so I recognized that I was doing that a lot and I was gaining weight. And it wasn't that I was snacking on these terrible foods or like tons and tons at a time snacking, but I was choosing to bypass that, and I was holding on to things. I was holding on to something. I was like reaching, like I was like it's that reaching feeling, right? Like I'm like, I have my eyes closed and I'm like moving my hands and I'm like trying to like show you through the show, but I can't show you. But it was like, that grasping feeling, that reaching. And it was like, I felt like I was trying to gather. Oh, the Four of Pentacles just came to my head. So it was like gathering everything up and hoarding it. I was trying to hoard it. Thank you. Thank you for the word. I was hoarding everything. I was trying to hoard this energy. I was trying to hoard and hold on to this expectation, right? It was like, and I was trying to be like the girl in Nemo, right? When she's like holding onto the fish, right? Or like, old school cartoon where she's just gonna love him and squeeze him and hold him and kiss him and just hold on and like have that, right? It was that control, right? That's that feeling of control, or excuse me, the feeling of that illusion of control, right? And I had that feeling. I could feel that something was happening, but I just couldn't. I was lethargic. I was tired. I was going through this, and I was gaining weight. Like it was like just so much weight. And I'm like, okay, something is really going on here. So, and then it comes to a head, right? The cards were telling me that something was going to happen. There was going to be some sort of message, and we thought it was going to be for Sean. I really did, but it was ultimately for me, at least on this particular aspect of it. Sean's got his own shit he's working through too. So I get this email, and nothing changed. It was a condemning, judgmental, fear-based, sinful, dark, energy manipulative, emotional manipulating email. And right then I knew. I had accepted that the relationship that I had always wanted to have, we see in movies and storybooks, and we see some of our friends with their moms. And the relationship that I had always had this expectation of, that I really wanted, this true, desirous mother relationship, mother-daughter like connection, I had accepted that it wasn't there, and it never will be. And one of the biggest parts of this acceptance is also accepting the silence from my father. And it's in that silence, it's that deafening silence that I feel like was continuously, that was holding on to that pain, that expectation, like, and the fact that the silence, not one word, it just it solidified that expectation was just that, an expectation and an illusion. And I feel like that's where I was holding on to so much as well, not just with my mother, but with my father. And that hurt because he was always the one that I could talk to a bit better, that I could actually relax a little bit, that I could be a bit more of myself with. And his silence and acceptance goes against all the things that I learned growing up from him. And that confusion angered me. And I held in that anger. I held in that illusion. And that's not discounting the good times that we had. We had good experiences. But again, remember, in all abusive relationships, whether physically, mentally, emotionally, there are good times, because that's how that hook and connection goes through. That is the narcissist way. And accepting that my mother is a narcissist. Accepting that she's a fearful person. And accepting that that is not who I am. That is not the life I choose to live. And I still love her. I will always love her. I love her as a human being. I love her as a frequency in this world. And I love her for being the vessel to bring me into this experience so that I could live this experience to help others align and choose to awaken to the frequency that they are here to embody. But I no longer choose to have her in my frequency. And I've accepted that. And once that acceptance happened, then the grieving process started. And when we allow ourselves to grieve, which is where most of us go through and we get to addiction in the first place, right? But when we allow ourselves to grieve the process and go through it, fully embody and experience it, we are fully manifesting and experiencing the transmutation of pain and trauma into love and empowerment. And our physical body expresses that. We shed what no longer serves us, right? That weight was coming in to protect me. I was gaining weight over these last few months to protect me from the frequency that was still holding on to me to keep me within the grasp of that expectation. Does that make sense? And so when I accepted the fact that that expectation was an illusion, 7 of Cups, then the grieving process can happen. And I accepted that. And in that grieving process, I chose to channel my energy into action steps that supported the strength of my physical experience. That supported the strength of my chosen awareness, that supported the strength of my love for myself, my love for my life, my love for my choices, my conviction in who I am, why I am, what I am, how I am. And as I started to release, grieve, transmute, my physical body did the same thing. And so that's what's so important, to recognize and understand that our physical body is the physical manifestation and expression of the frequency that we are currently vibrating at. And if we have frequencies and hooks and toxicity, and I just saw Phoebe again, like in that Friends episode where she goes and tries to clear out Ross's fucking aura, right? With all of the like gunk. When we choose to cleanse that out, when we choose to let that go, we transmute. And you know what happens is when we're letting go of those things, we start to see, oh my God, we start to see all of the different shadow aspects of ourselves that we gave up, that we threw out because we wanted to hold on to these hooks, right? Because we wanted to hoard this toxic energy from this expectation, from this illusion. We throw out pieces of ourselves. And so in our forest of shadows, once we release and we let go, then all of a sudden we start to feel that parts of ourselves are coming back to us again. Then we're able to integrate the frequencies that we threw out, that were part of us, of who we truly are, because we no longer have this grasp and this hold and have this space being used by this toxicity of frequencies that no longer support us. So as we release and transmute and shed energetically, emotionally, spiritually, and physically, we also integrate, heal, align, and rise in all of those areas. So, I'm pretty emotional right now. This is a wonderful release. I'm really grateful and thankful that y'all hang out with me and that y'all hear me. And I ask that you hear yourself. Listen. Observe. And then use that free will that you were given as the gift of being this human. The orgasms are so much better that way. And then you can just be healing, transmuting, and manifesting through all that sexual pleasure from an aligned state, loving yourself, sacred, aware, conscious, consciously living the experience that you came here, embodying the manifestation that you are. Oh, God, that shit turns me on. All right. On that note, let's go ahead and finish this. Oh, big stretch. Yes. So, as you go about your day, I challenge you to become observe. Hello. to become observant, to be the observer of your life. Where are you choosing patterns and behaviors that keep you at a frequency of hoarding toxic expectations of something? And what will you do to shift it? How do you want to feel? And don't give me this bullshit of, I don't want to feel pain. I don't want to feel this. That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking, how do you want to feel? You clearly know how you don't want to feel. So how do you want to feel? Get into that frequency. Watch how every single opportunity and sign will present itself to you. Listen. And then do it. Trust yourself. So, anyhow, I'm going to head out. I'm going to go ahead and experience this day, because there will be no other day like this in my life. This is the only day that will be today. And I choose to be fully present and aware, magnetic, impactful, observant, magical, psychic, witchy, sexy, sensual, orgasmic. All right. I hope you have an orgasmic, magical day. And come follow me over on Instagram at sexual.alchemist, at sexual.alchemist. You can also come follow me on Facebook as well. And yeah, talk to you soon. Catch you on the next episode. Later.